The following show is a Pod Avenue production.
Hey guys, this is professional wrestler Colt Cabana and professional podcaster Colt Cabana. You're listening to the This Is Awesome Wrestling Show. This is awesome. This is awesome. This is awesome. This is awesome. This promo is dreadful, which would make it awesome.
This is Awesome Wrestling Show. Glenn Moore here. Whew, it's weird to post another episode so close to the previous episode. Usually I say I'm going to be back in the swing of things, and then I let 2 months, 3 months pass, and then I'm like, screw it. But here I am. This is Awesome Wrestling Show. Back with it. Other episode. Broadcasting live from Memphis, Tennessee. My new home? Question mark? Not as of now. Maybe? Question mark? Never know. But here I am in Memphis, spending the last, month and a half on the road. Not in Cleveland, Ohio, but in Memphis, Tennessee, and a couple weeks in Chicago, which is where All In and Starrcast took place. And this is what the podcast this week, or this episode, is about. It's about All In and Starrcast, because I was in Chicago for about a week and a half, and so many stories, so many stuff behind the scenes when it comes to Starrcast, and then the shit show that All In was when it comes to being a member of the media. I want to talk about that while it's still fresh in my mind. So, obviously, everybody knows with Dinner with the King, myself and Jerry Lawler. If you haven't listened to that podcast, please do. Subscribe on iTunes. We have been broadcasting together, for the first time in a while, about 6 months, 7 months, because I came down for the funeral for Brian Christopher, Jerry's son, at the beginning of August. And was staying in a hotel in Memphis for a week. And then King said, if you're going to stay, let's stay at my place. So I was helping out with King because he opened up an online store at kingjerrylawler.com. And he was getting a ton of orders. He has these mystery boxes to where people, order a mystery box. Each box gets a worn Jerry Lawler shirt that he wore on either SmackDown or Raw while doing commentary. And then he adds like photos and just like merchandise that isn't available to the public. And just stuff around, like, a part of his garage, he has 8x10s that he never uses, vintage merchandise that any Jerry Lawler fan that's going to spend money for a mystery box is going to enjoy. Way more than the value. So before he raises the price or thinks about stopping doing these boxes, you should probably grab one if you're a Jerry Lawler fan. Anyway, so I decided to stay with King until it was time to go to Chicago, because King was going to Chicago a week before his Starrcast appearance for a comedy show with JR, Jim Ross, at Zany's in Chicago and Rosemont. So I decided to travel with King to go to that show. And so I got to Chicago, went to the show with King and JR. I met JR before, just passing at a WWE Access event while I was with Jerry. No real, conversation. And spoke with JR when we had JR on the Dinner with the King podcast. But nothing too personal to where JR would probably, remember me or have any kind of past to where we can talk. But so it was my kind of like first formal introduction into Jim Ross. So here I am in the green room of Zany's in Chicago. I'm sitting there, and I have Jerry Lawler in front of me, and Jim Ross, sitting in the other side of the room. Anybody who is a Attitude Era fan, anybody who is a wrestling fan knows that I'm probably geeking out. I'm totally geeking out. Yes, I'm friends with Jerry Lawler for about 8 years, so yeah, he's my friend. Jerry the King Lawler, he's not Jerry the King Lawler anymore. He's Jerry Lawler, my friend. But when you have Jim Ross in the same room with Jerry, 13, 14, 15-year-old Glenn is inside of me is geeking out. It's totally marking out. And to interact with them and talk with them and joke around with them, have some dinner, it was just, it was great. The show was great in Zany's. Met a lot of people who listened to the podcast, A Dinner with the King. A lot of people in Chicago that have become acquaintance of. Talk with them. Geez, my voice keeps cracking. I sound like I'm in puberty. 35-year-old man. So bear with me with that. I don't know. I'm getting over being sick. Sinuses, achy. I think I had a 1-day flu. Jerry, he locked me in a room and basically said, "Don't come out until you're better." He didn't really do that until I got better, but yeah, getting over being sick. So pardon the Brady Brunch voice cracking gig for the show. So, like I said, I was totally marking out, hanging out with JR and King. When they were done signing autographs, taking pictures, kissing babies, we went to Gibson's in Chicago for dinner. So it was me, Jim Ross, drinking his Moscow Mules. Got Jerry Lawler sitting across from me, and then we got Raphael, who is Jim Ross's agent / kind of like manager when it comes to these gigs. And we're having dinner at Gibson's, and I'm like, this is amazing. If you would have told 15-year-old Glenn Moore that, hey, you're going to be, sitting next to JR and, Jerry the King Lawler at dinner in Chicago, I would have slapped you silly and called you crazy. So dinner was great. They left the next day. I stayed in Chicago. And Wizard World was staying across the street from the hotel I was staying at. Now, I'd never been to a Comic-Con in my life. Never been to any kind of horror con or Comic-Con. I've been to WrestleCade. WrestleCon, I'm sorry. WrestleCon. I've been to, what was that? WrestlePalooza or something in Strongsville, Ohio. Chris Clem, if you're listening, you know what I'm talking about. That was 3 years ago. But, yeah, so I'd never been to like a Comic-Con before, especially a Wizard World. So I saw that they were reuniting the show Boy Meets World. And there, you can get a picture with the 4 cast members, Corey, Topanga, Sean, and the brother. So, pardon, I don't remember your name. So I was like, I'm jumping on that. So I got that, and then I met Thomas Ian Nichols, who is the kid from Rookie of the Year and American Pie. So I had to meet him too, which was cool. So Wizard World was interesting. People dressing up, people wearing too little spandex. Maybe it shouldn't be squeezing their full bodies into spandex. That was really interesting. But it was cool to go there. Not really much of stuff that I like. I like horror stuff. I'm not really a comic book guy, so I'm not really a cosplay kind of guy. So it was cool to get a picture. There were some wrestlers there. that I really had no interest in getting pictures with, or people I met before, and just didn't want to bother. So Wizard World was cool for a day. Decided that since Starrcast was so close to the date of me staying there already, I was going to stay over and stay in Chicago. So I stayed in Chicago for a couple more days in Starrcast 2018. And for those who know, I was supposed to host a panel with Jerry Lawler and Terry Funk while they do a retrospective, where they reminisce about the empty arena match. And we were supposed to have it up on the big TV screens. This is actually going to be broadcast on the Fight app too. And the numbers were great for that, so that would have been great to be on broadcast. But they're going to, retrospective, talk about the match while the match is playing to the audience. So that would have been fun. But Terry Funk got sick or had a surgery, or we don't know what the case was. Something happened where Terry Funk could not have gotten to Chicago. He was not healthy enough to travel. So we were bummed. So they canceled the panel, which was really my only reason for being there. Conrad Thompson, I'll get to Conrad in a minute. He paid for my whole hotel, was going to be there for 3 nights, be there for all 4 days. Jerry was going to be there for a night. So I felt bad. I felt bad that I really wasn't scheduled for anything hosting-wise for panels. Conrad said, if we need you, you can be on standby for for hosting. But he couldn't guarantee me anything just because the panel was canceled and everything else has been filled already. So I felt bad. I'm like, hey, man, Conrad, I'm already in Chicago. This is Wednesday, the day before the first day of Starrcast. And I'm like, hey, man, I should text him Tuesday night. I'm like, hey, I'm already in Chicago. If you need any help setting up or with anything, from now until Friday when Jerry gets there, let me know. So he texts me back, Conrad, and says, hey, come tomorrow at noon when, you can help out setting up. Heck yeah, man, come on out. So I get to the Hyatt Regency in Schaumburg, which is where the Starrcast was going to be for. And at this time, I was also going to be covering All In for Fightful.com, covering All In as a member of the media. So I was excited for that. I wasn't planning on going to All In. I was either going to watch it from the Starrcast, like watch party, or go to a baseball game if the Cubs or White Sox were in town. Really had no interest in going to All In. I'll get to that reasons why that in the future of the show. But so I get there Wednesday, and there's Conrad was there, but for his friends, his work associates from his mortgage company were helping out. I have to say, Derek and Harrison were amazing. Got along with them. I partied with them, drank with them by every single night. Good dudes, guys I've become friends with who are from Alabama that hope to reconnect with in the future for future Starrcasts and just hanging out in general. So we were putting together furniture. We were setting up stuff for the show, putting up tables, getting walkie-talkies set up. I met Megan, who is Ric Flair's daughter, but more importantly, Conrad's fiance. She was absolutely fantastic. But we just set up furniture, set up stuff, was doing anything I can to get stuff organized because things were just piling in last second. And setting up the memorabilia room, and Conrad had a van, and it had probably around $3 million worth of memorabilia. Just the amount of stuff he had, and the worth. From Ric Flair boots to Dusty Rhodes boots to a weight belt signed by Hulk Hogan, an old school WWF turnbuckle signed by Roddy Piper and Hulk Hogan. Just anything you could think of, arts, pieces of great art that were signed by the wrestler that was featured in the art. Robes, Ric Flair's robe, a $60,000 gold belt, another belt that was worth about $15,000 that went missing for about an hour. The gold belt went missing for a couple hours during Starrcast. More to that in the future, but just getting everything set up. And this van has had a bunch of stuff. We're just unloading, locking it up or setting it aside, getting it set up in the memorabilia room, which is going to be called the Belt Room because Dave Milliken, the belt man, the guy that makes all the belts, makes a lot of belts for WWE even now. He brought a bunch of belts. They had about over 100 belts on display at Starrcast. Just any belt you could think of was there. So we set up that room. We set up the guest room. We showed them. We ordered Target delivery, and it was over 300 pieces of merchandise from 20 things of Coke and Diet Coke, and when I say Coke, I mean Coca-Cola, you druggies. Just from food for the VIP rooms and all this stuff. So we had it delivered, and the poor girl that had to go and get this stuff, she was such a champ to deliver it, because this is a regular person that gets an order. I'm sure they freaked out when they saw this, but she was a champ. Brought everything, so they didn't have to worry about someone going out and shopping and trying to set up. So Wednesday night went to about 11 o'clock at night. I was there from noon until like 11 o'clock at night, and things still weren't set up. Had a meeting upstairs. It was Conrad and Bruce Pritchard. Eric Bischoff came, drunk as fuck, drinking, and he came from the bar. It was a good time. Just like a day recap meeting, which became the norm for the rest of the days after Starrcast ended. And then so Starrcast first day, I was just helping out, being one of the staff, mainly helping. Since not a lot of his mortgage people were huge wrestling fans, they don't really know who the wrestlers were. So I was like handling talent basically, and being like a security guy, since I was one of the bigger guys there. Atlas Security was there. Guys have been doing security for wrestling people for many years and shows. Big guys that you don't want to mess with were there, but I was just keep an eye on talent when guys would move from one section of the building to the other, because it was so spread out. Walk with them and make sure no one bothered them or stopped them, because people who went to Starrcast, people, I might as well do the rant now. I would say 80% of the people that attended Starrcast, and I know a lot of people probably listening to this, are just socially awkward. Just do not know how to handle themselves in public. They're not respectful. They don't know their surroundings. They don't know that they're being a dick. They don't know that they're being rude, and just absolutely the worst. And that's maybe the reason why I don't like going to these Comic-Cons or like wrestling events, is because the people that go to these things are just absolutely socially awkward. It is just absolutely terrible. They're just rude, and they don't care about other people. I don't know if it's because they don't go out in public. They sit at home and watch wrestling all day, watching New Japan until 5 a.m, or what they do, but they don't leave the house, so they don't know how to act in public. It's terrible. Anyway, so Thursday was just the first day. Not many people. There's a lot of people that came, but it wasn't going to be as packed as Friday and Saturday when people got off of work and came for the weekend. So I helped with people getting their bracelets, handling talent. It wasn't a long day, but it was a good first run. Then Friday came. Friday is when Jerry came in, so I was basically Jerry's handler for the whole weekend, his liaison. Getting to I knew where he was supposed to be at what time, and what was coming up and everything, so they didn't have to worry about having multiple people, and Jerry didn't have to worry about asking where to go and everything. So we, Jerry did his autograph signing. A lot of people listened to the podcast, Dinner with the King, or came up and recognized me and obviously know who Jerry was. So, people got some photos of both of us and photo with me, which was really nice. But the Jerry's line was great. A lot of people pre-ordered, photos or autographs. And then after that, Jerry had a dinner with the king, an actual dinner with the king. I think 12 people. It was sold out. There was only room for 12 people. It was sold out quick. People paid to have dinner with Jerry. Karen Jarrett was there. She came and sat with us. I recorded the whole thing. It's on Dinner with the King. The audio isn't great because I just put the recorder in the corner of the room and let it record. I tried to clean up as best as I could, but there's always that one asshole that nitpicks and complains about the audio when no one else complains. I'll tell you what, people, Jerry Calhoun, Memphis wrestling legend when it comes to referees, he says he's hard of hearing, but he had no problem listening to the podcast. So you idiots out there that complain about the audio, if you don't like it, don't listen. I don't care if you listen or not. Whoop-de-doo. But I don't need to see your hate tweets hating about it. If you don't like it, don't listen. Whoop-de-doo. Anyway. So it was great to I know a lot of the people, all the wrestlers, from Cody to the Young Bucks. It was nice to introduce myself to Kenny Omega. And I'm not a huge fan of these guys. Cody, I like them. I respect them, what they do. Obviously, they're good guys. They're very nice. But would I buy a ticket to watch them wrestle? I wouldn't. The Young Bucks, same thing. Kenny Omega, okay, I respect them. I'll watch them for free online, but I don't think they're worth my money. That's just me. But I know the whole premise of the weekend was for them, so they were hounded the whole weekend. And once they knew that where the fans knew where the VIP room was, that thing was guarded like Fort Knox, because people would try anything to sneak in and try to con you into getting an autograph from the Young Bucks, and it was just whatever. I mean, people are just nuts. People are just, like I said, socially awkward. And so Jerry had his dinner with the King, and then because he didn't do the panel, Conrad was like, "Hey, would Jerry want to do the roast of Bruce Pritchard and be a part of that?" Which was a sold out event in the main ballroom. Eric Bischoff, Medusa, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, Pat Patterson and Gerald Briscoe were there. I don't know how WWE let these two guys come there, but they did. Were there, and Jeff Jarrett was there to introduce the King. King went up there. King had no time to prepare. He had no prepared statement or jokes. He just went up there and winged it, and I think he did pretty well for winging it, basically. And then Jerry and I went to Cheesecake Factory, had some food, which was terrible. The service was awful. Do not go to the Cheesecake Factory in Schaumburg. It was awful. Went back to the hotel, and so Pro Wrestling Tees wanted Jerry to sign like 3,000 8x10s because they want to throw them into their pro wrestling crates. So they're paying him good money to do it. So Jerry was like, "Okay, I'll do it." So they wanted to try to do it all all that one night, a couple of nights. One night that Jerry was there, try to get them all done so they didn't have to ship them back and forth between Memphis and Chicago. So we had, Jerry, it was like 11 o'clock at night when we got back to Jerry's hotel room, and, we had a thing, Jerry was sitting at the desk. I was on the other side of the desk, and I would slide an 8x10. Jerry would sign. I would slide it, slide the other one, so Jerry didn't have to do anything but lift his hand, sign, lift his hand, sign, lift his hand, sign, just, fast. We got through one box, which is 1,000 in a couple hours, and Jerry couldn't. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning, 1:30 in the morning, and Jerry, he's like, "Let's ship these to my house. I'll do them on my own." That's what Jerry did. So Saturday comes, I meet Jerry at the hotel because I was staying at the Marriott about 5 minutes away. And then Jerry had a panel about Andy Kaufman with Bill Apter and Dutch Mantell. and Jerry left. He was gone. See you later, Jerry. So I was back to being staff for Starrcast, handling talent in the green room, just helping people on the walkie-talkie, helping guests try to find where where they were going to do the signings, being Kenny Omega's bodyguard for when he was doing signing, when he needed to go back and forth between pictures and signings, and he was doing Macaulay Culkin's live podcast on there. Same thing with JR, handling JR because JR came on Sunday. Crazy last couple days. And then Sunday came, helped with cleaned up a little bit. And I stayed Sunday night in Chicago before heading back to Memphis because Jerry decided I needed my help for these mystery boxes. So he was like, let's go back to Memphis. So we go to Morton's Steakhouse for a celebratory steak dinner on Sunday. It was probably about 15 of us, Conrad, Megan, Don West was there, if you know who that is, from TNA. A lot of other people that were involved. SoCal Val came. It was great. Great to celebrate and celebrate the successful weekend, a hectic weekend at Morton's, courtesy of Conrad Thompson. Now, Conrad Thompson, look, the dude is a podfather. Great podcasts that he hosts. I didn't meet him, face to face until, going to Chicago for this. We talked a lot, texted a lot about for Jerry and whatnot, and just, talking in general about podcasts. And he is a kind man. I have all nice things to say about Conrad Thompson. And I hope he does a second Starrcast. But, hanging out with him all weekend, working with him all weekend, he is just a guy that is a straight shooter, but a kind straight shooter. A very helping, more of a guy that will, instead of, telling you what's going to happen, he's asking you, what do you think? Just a good guy. And I would work with Conrad on anything that he would have in the future. And Megan is great. Conrad's fiance, Ric Flair's daughter, she was absolutely a blast to not only work with because she was great, but also partake in alcoholic beverages after Starrcast for the evening, because every night we had a nightcap at the bar, and she loved her wine, and it was nice to unwind and just laugh. And I got really drunk on Thursday night, the first night. I was just like, I usually am the type where I will drink like one, if I'm like doing an event like this or out like even like a vacation or somewhere, like I'll go hard one night, and then the rest of the nights would be mild or less than mild. I'll drink, but I won't be as much. So I had about 7. Chris Clem was there. Chris Clem, Chicago native, Cleveland boy. He was there with me. He knows how drunk I got. Actually texted Steve Guy. And if you know Steve Guy, if you listen to the podcast, Steve Guy is the OG. He's the original co-host of This Is Awesome Wrestling Show. So drunk text to Steve Guy. That was it. There's no story. There's no story behind that. I texted Steve Guy, I miss you, and he was texting Chris Clem. He's like, is Glenn drunk? Chris Clem was like, maybe. So it was a drunk text. Nothing came from it. That was it. But that was just funny to partake in that with Chris Clem. So I had about 7 double Jack and Cokes, tall double Jack and Cokes, in a matter of like a half an hour, and I was blitzed. And then went to the meeting for like the night meeting, and I was just absolutely gone. Just absolutely gone. And I remember just Megan, she was drunk too. So we're just like laughing at each other because we both were drunk. I'm trying to be composed for this meeting, which was not like a serious meeting. It was just a meeting. It's just like everybody's just talking. And I was just so gone. And then to the meeting and went to Derek and Harrison's room. And we just like were chilling. I think we're watching football or we're playing Madden or something. I forget. But we're just chilling. Couple girls came in the room. And we're just hanging out. Talking wrestling. Talking some football too. So that was the only night I went hard. Other nights, I think I got kind of tipsy with Victoria, if you know her from WWF. And once she knew who I was, and that I was like Jerry Lawler's podcast co-host, she couldn't stop gloating about Jerry Lawler and how she loved Jerry is in a drunken mess. And she was like hanging all over me, giving me hugs and stuff. If I could have tried, maybe Big G could have got with Victoria. Maybe. If I tried. But I didn't want to try. Because she was like drunk. And that's not really my thing. Not at all. So Starrcast was great. So All In was Saturday night. I was a credentialed member of the media. I went to the arena about an hour before the show started. We were given no instructions for media availability. I was given no times on when to be there, basically where to go to get my credential. At will call, got my credential, was told to go in through the public access. I got patted down, wanded. Then I was told not to go that way. I had to go to the dock. But the dock was fenced in. This guy literally had to pull a fence down to let me in because it wasn't the way. I would have to walk all the way around the arena to get there. He let me in. I go to the security desk. They have no clue where media goes. They lead me down the stairs, and I'm like in the gorilla position at All In. That's where they leave me. And there's like Ethan Page and Britt Baker, people who have been guests on the This Is Awesome Wrestling show. And then, obviously I saw my Starrcast and, they knew who I was. So I kind of like fit in for a little bit. And then I was like, where's media? Like, oh, they did media video like 2 hours ago. And I'm like, what? And like the media availability was like not even Cody Rhodes or the Young Bucks or Kenny Omega. So it was kind of a wash. So I get up. They leave me. They said, there's no more media availability for the night. And I was told they were going to do like New Japan style video after each match. They're going to, you go down and it's going to be New Japan style. You just, it's a media scrum after each match with each competitor. Well, they scrapped that last minute. So there was no media availability even during or after the event. So I was like, screw it. I'm like, what the heck? So I call the editor for Fightful, Sean, explain to him what happened. He's upset, not with me, but because of lack of communication from the Ring of Honor people. They didn't tell him about the media availability, and there was like 6 media members there. So I'm like, if I can't get anything else, I'm just going to leave. Because I didn't really care about being at All In. The only match I truly wanted to see was the 4-way women's match, which I was able to watch, which was great, just because of Britt Baker and Chelsea Green. Other than that, I didn't really care for any other matches on the card. It was a great event. It was packed. Great presentation inside the arena, but just it's not my thing. So I got to the suite for the media suite. There was like 3 seats for media. There's like 6 media members. Justin Barrasso from Sports Illustrated was there. Introduced myself to him, which was cool. A couple other wrestling websites were there at WrestleZone that were drinking while covering the event. Now, listen, I've been in media for about 10 years. covering sports. If you're working, there's press box etiquette. And that press box etiquette is you don't drink and you don't cheer. You know, there's no bias in the press box. You just work. Even if you own your own website like I did for 5 years before I got hired by the Plain Dealer, you know, when I covered events, I was biased. You don't wear stuff that's going to tip off who you're rooting for, even if you are a fan. Now, these guys were drinking and cheering for the matches in the media press box. Just truly unprofessional. And I'm not talking about Justin from Sports Illustrated. I'm talking about the website I just mentioned. It's unprofessional. Just awful. And I don't want to be a part of that suite. So I told Sean I was just going to go and try to get whatever I can at Starrcast. Andrea, she was from Fightful. She was there at Starrcast, so she got some stuff. But I didn't get shit just because of the lack of communication from Ring of Honor. And I didn't want to be there at All In as a fan. And I didn't have a seat in the press box. I was just standing there like a dumbass while these other guys had seats, 2 seats, and drinking and cheering during the match. It's truly unprofessional. If you're going to be media, you got to be media. You can't be a fanboy and be media at the same time. So, yeah, so that was my experience at All In. I left right after the women's match, and then I came back to the hotel and just went to the hotel in Hyatt Regency, and the VIP party was after, so I went to that. That was really awkward because I think everybody was expecting Kenny Omega, Young Bucks, Cody to come to the after party. That wasn't the case. It was just the Starrcast All In after party. It wasn't the official All In after party. So, yeah, read the fine print. But it was just basically everybody, all these dudes, like 98% dudes, just looking at each other. Whatever you imagine a party would be if you invite all the wrestling nerds that love like New Japan Wrestling and Young Bucks, Marks, if you put them all in a room with Down Straight playing the music, and Down Straight makes used to make about half of the entrance themes in WWF. So you have that going on. You have a room full of VIP marks separated from the general admission marks. And what they're doing, there's no dancing or anything. It's just music playing and people just looking at each other. 98% dudes. And the other 2% of the girls are with their boyfriends. And about 2 really hot girls. Just imagine going to that. I went to bed. I went to bed. And just, hey, you paid to be there, go ahead. But just wasn't my thing. But the whole weekend was great. Conrad did a great job fulfilling the Mark's dreams of meeting all these people, meeting all the what are they called? Bullet Club, meeting all of them. You know, all the I met only person I wanted a photo with during the whole weekend, and the only person I got a photo with other than Conrad, we did our Tommy Boy photo, was Arn Anderson. I went to Conrad. I was like, yo, I know I'm working. The only person that I would want a photo with is Arn Anderson. He goes, done. He goes, I'll get it for you. So he introduced, hey, this is Glenn Moore. He co-hosts Jerry Lawler's podcast. He's been helping out a weekend. He just wants a photo with you if you can, And Arn was like, no problem at all. Got a photo with Arn Anderson. I love Arn Anderson. One of my favorite wrestlers of all time. The Enforcer, 4 Horsemen. Arn Anderson. Arn fucking Anderson. How awesome is that? So, it was awesome to see Mark James, who is a wrestling territory aficionado when it comes to information and books. Grab the new Jerry Lawler book that he got. who else was there that I was met? Like I said, I met Jordan Grace. She was great. Buff Bagwell. Let's talk about Buff Bagwell. So, I'm not sure if this story's been told or not, or Conrad wants me to tell, but I'm just going to say. I'm going to give, not too in detail, but basically, Buff Bagwell tried to walk out with the money. Say that he was going to make right with Conrad down the line. So Buff and Conrad had a agreement when it comes to the split and money and whatnot. I'm not going to get into detail about that, but they had an agreement. So Buff wasn't living up to that agreement and was going to take more than what he should have been given. Well, so basically, Buff kept telling Conrad that he was going to make it right down the line, that his flight was leaving very soon. He didn't have time to sit and count money, so he was just going to make right with Conrad in the future. And Conrad was like, that's not going to fly with me. Buff tries to leave. He's basically in his car. Atlas security, guys who are about 6'4", 300 pounds, just pure mammoths of men, basically pull Buff out of the car, and we're like, we're like, you can't leave until you talk to Conrad. So I don't think they physically put him out of the car. They basically said you can't leave until you talk to Conrad. I walk out with Conrad to the front, and Buff is like cowering over, handing all this money over to Conrad, telling him, don't make them beat me up. And he gave money to Conrad and turned it off, walked away, and everything was straight. And I think Buff Bagwell is now banned from any kind of future Starrcast promotions. So that was like the only hiccup, other than like the big gold belt going missing for like 2 hours. I couldn't find the suitcase that was holding the belt. Like the belt was inside this Halliburton suitcase. They couldn't find it. They did find it. But just stuff like that kind of, make things a little bit panicky during the weekend. But overall, it was great for a first time. It was very hectic. But I think Conrad and everybody did a great job. And I think the second one will be, if it can be a lot better, it will be. But I thought it did great. For the first one. And All In, hopefully, if they do the next one, I think the next one's going to be on the West Coast. Hopefully, they have better management with media if they want people to cover this damn thing. And should have rules like no drinking in the press box and no cheering if you're going to be a working member of the media. If you want to be a media and be a fanboy, go buy tickets, sit down in the crowd, and enjoy your beers there, WrestleZone. But yeah. So that's my take on the weekend. Went back to Memphis. I've been helping out with Jerry, and I'm making my way back to Cleveland shortly. So that's basically what's been going on here for myself, and that's a little bit of recap. I would say the winners of this trip from for the Starrcast and All In, definitely Cody and the Young Bucks for putting it on. Great job, sold out, made money. Conrad Thompson, big thumbs up. Hope we get to work with you more, dude. Also, big thumbs up to his staff and the people that were helping out. Made some friends with those people. It was great to meet them. And then big thumbs up to people that I became friends with, like SoCal Val, Karen Jarrett, even Simon Gotch. We had a nice conversation during the VIP party, very in-depth conversation at the VIP party, and just great. I thought it was a great guy, very nice too, very smart man. Thumbs down to Buff Bagwell. Thumbs down to who was it? No, not a thumbs down. But thumbs down to Buff Bagwell. Thumbs down to the attendees of Starrcast. I don't care if I offend you, if you stop listening to the podcast, or you're going to send me hate tweets. I know not all of you were socially awkward, but most of you were. And if you are a Bullet Club mark, you probably don't listen to me anyway, because I'm not a fan of that. I'm more of a fan of the old school stuff, so you probably don't listen to me anyway. But for the people that were there that were cool and socially aware of how to act while other people are around you, especially when it's shoulder to shoulder and bathing, you're appreciated. The others, you can go to hell. Take notes. Learn how to be a person in public. Be respectful and not rude. And soap. Learn to love it. All right, folks. This has been another episode of This Is Awesome Wrestling Show. It's been great talking to you for the past about 45 minutes here. Great to be talking, not with Jerry Lawler, because that can be exhausting as it is. Just kidding. Love you, Jerry. And hope to be back soon with some more stories and tales of my wrestling excursions, conquests, wrestling conquests. Here on the This Is Awesome Wrestling Show, get your TIAWS shirt on Pro Wrestling Tees. Follow us on Twitter at TIA Wrestling. Follow me on Twitter at GlenMooreCLE. Follow Dinner with the King. Dinner with King. Go to our show website, podavenue.com/TIAWS for all your This Is Awesome Wrestling Show needs and links. And until next time, can't tell you when, I don't know, maybe tomorrow, maybe next week. Subscribe on iTunes and you'll always be notified. But until next time, it's been a pleasure. It's been an honor to share some stories with you here on the This Is Awesome Wrestling Show.
The preceding show is a Pod Avenue production.